Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Zoning Board. My name is Anthony Rasho. I'll be acting as chairman today, and I would ask the clerk please to call, let's do it this way. Let's do the invocation first. Mr. Nguyen, please.
Okay. All righty. Let us pray, please. Father, we're grateful for this day that you've blessed us with, and as we approach this meeting and the agenda before us, give us guidance, give us wisdom, insight, Lord, as we do the will of the people, Lord, and we thank you, Lord, for your hand on what is going to take place here today. In your name, amen.
Amen. Would please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we can call the roll.
Chairman Rassio,
Here.
Bruce Galloway,
Here.
Russ Wynn,
Here?
Gary Gambrell,
Present.
Ben Hershenson,
Here.
Kelly Macklin, Richard Donnelly.
We have a quorum. Next, I would call for a motion to approve the minutes of the
Also
meeting.
move, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry?
I'll move that minutes be approved from the
And a second.
October 20 meeting.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. As usual, the public comment will be entertained after the presentations, and I see we will determine whether or not there's anyone here who wishes to make a comment. The first case is the Aspen Dental Sign Variance Request. The request which allows two wall signs where there is a double frontage right away, and they wish to change it to allow 4 wall signs for a proposed medical building on the through lot. I personally have some questions on that. One of the issues that they raise is that it is a hardship if they don't get the 4 signs. And I wish someone would explain to me what that hardship is.
Thank you, Chairman Rassi. Maybe they can try and address that when they give their initial presentation. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Okay, would you like to come forward? I'll remind everyone this is a quasi-judicial hearing, which means that all evidence presented here must be of a factual or expert opinion nature, and at this time I will swear in any witnesses. Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May I get your full name, please, and affiliation?
Yes, sir. My name is Joseph Ware.
Joseph?
Ware, W-A-R-E.
I'm sorry, please repeat.
That's W-A-R-E, Ware.
W-A-R-E. Okay.
And I'm with Anchor Sign to represent Aspen Dental.
You represent Aspen. Okay. All right.
Do you just want to answer questions, sir, or do you have a presentation at all?
I can go either way. I can roll through some pictures real quick. Maybe.
Why don't you do a brief presentation, show the pictures to the board, and then
Okay.
I would ask staff to come up and give a presentation on the findings required, and then that way you can come up afterwards and answer any questions that are still outstanding.
Okay. I'd like to start with the site plan. I'm going to try to use this laser if I can do this from here. We are proposing a sign on the south and on the west elevations. This will be due to the visibility and the traffic flow to the site. There is an elevation drawing showing the proposed sign that we'd like to have on the south elevation. It's a set of 32-inch channel letters. It's designed for square footage wise. It meets the code for square footage. Okay, the issue we have, and we're asking for the variance for the 2 signs. Again, if I can, without shakeups. If a client or customer is traveling north on 41, you cannot make a left turn into the site. There's a medium or island, so the customer would actually have to go up, do a U-turn at Bonita Beach Road, come down, turn right and turn left to get into the site. Speed limit's 50 miles an hour, so we would like to give the customers advance warning so they can prepare to make that turn. And there's a shot showing you if you're heading north on 41, you can see Aspen Dental to the left over there. Speed limit's 50 miles per hour.
But, excuse me, there is a sign facing Route 41, right? On the east side of your building.
Yes, but it's on an angle where, as I go through the pictures, you can kind of see the angle is not, you won't be able to see it.
But somebody traveling from the south could see that.
Yeah, but our issue is for the people coming from the south heading north.
Yeah, that's what I mean, heading north. They have to look to their left on Route 41 to see the sign.
No, you're right. Heading north, you cannot, due to the angle, here, watch this. Well, let me go back, let me finish what I was going to tell you here first.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so
I'm
no, that's all right. So the curb blocks that. They can't turn in here. So we want a sign here as they go up so they can see the advance to make the turn. There's trees here that's blocking the sign you're talking about right there.
Oh, wait a minute. This is Route 41, correct?
Right, that's 41, and this would be heading
And
north.
this is heading north?
Correct,
That's
going
right.
this way, it's
Yeah.
heading north.
Okay, you're heading north.
Yeah, and the other
And
side's
where's your
south.
sign?
Okay, we want a sign right there, south elevation, right here. The one
And the other one is?
the one is by
off
these
to the
trees
other
over
side
here.
there?
on the other side of these trees right here.
All right, okay. So your hardship is what again? So that the trucks have to
So we
make
want to
a
give, since
U-turn?
it's speeding at 50 miles an hour, we want to give the
Yeah,
customers,
but wait a minute, can't they turn left on Bonita Beach Road, go up to Beaumont?
they,
turn left
they,
again?
they can, but.
No, it's a
We can-
lot
we're just
easier than
trying-
making a U-turn.
Yep, but they can't, we're just trying to make, they want to be seen, they want to give them advance notice. That's
Really,
what,
you know, I mean, again, so your hardship is what? That they won't be able to see your sign?
correct, and we, to get advance notice to prepare for the
But
turn.
again, you don't have walk-in clients. I mean, you're not a fast food restaurant or a convenience store. They're going to go in there, they know where they're going. They're not going to say, oh, a dental office, and I'm going to go there.
Excuse me,
It's
for a
just
point of
not-
order, please, if you will, would it be appropriate to hear the gentleman's presentation before we ask questions? I'm
Oh,
asking
sure,
that,
whatever you
only
wanna
makes
do.
things move smoother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was just showing you in this photo, this is where the curve, or the island that blocks the turn, how they can't go into the Beaumont over here. You can see where we're proposing to put the sign. There's just another shot showing that, the south elevation, another zoom in so you can see where the sign would be proposed. There's another zoom in. And one more. That's your last zoom in on that elevation. Okay, now we're going to talk about the west elevation, the other side of the building. The same kind of layout, individual channel letters, flush mounted, and they are, again, square footage wise, designed to meet the code. If you're heading, this will be, if you turn southbound Beaumont off of Bonita Beach Road, Walgreens is here, Aspen Dental is back into the woods. We want them to be able to see the building as they get down in this area, as they make the approach to the turn. We want to draw them into the site. And there's where the wall sign would go as they make that turn so they can see the site. And just one more shot. And the final shot showing where the proposed sign goes. That's just the opposite view going north on Beaumont, showing Aspendale location and where the Walgreens is located. And that's one final shot showing the trees that kind of block, and so that's why they want to put signs so they can pull the traffic flow in. And in a nutshell, basically, so that's their hardship they're asking for, is they want to be able to pull the customers in due to the trees and the traffic flow, speed limit, et cetera. And with that, I'll be glad to answer your questions.
This is Russ Wynn for the record, my immediate thought would it be possible to remove the trees to provide as a simple fix, but I'm just throwing some options out. Seems like,
Well, if you're asking me, we could probably trim the trees.
I'm just throwing some things out.
I don't know
mean, you
about removing the trees.
Yeah.
It's pretty picky about removing trees, but some can be trimmed, but there's a lot
Yeah,
of trees.
trimmed, I mean.
And a lot of those are not
Yeah.
even on their property.
I mean, around your building there, I was just curious, you know, there's a lot of,
Bruce Galloway, this is a newly created lot. Am I correct?
Correct.
And your client, you're not the owner, right? You're the-
No, no.
Okay, your client knew of the restrictions when they created the lot, is that right?
Probably so. I'm with the sign company, but I'm.
Well, I assume when they
didn't know
created
the-
the lot, they knew that they were allowed a freestanding sign and 2 signs on the roof. So I'm sort of with the chairman, I don't understand the hardship involved here. When you knew the restrictions when the lot was created, where's the hardship?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't involved in taking it, I'm just with the sign company, but I presented the hardship on the client's behalf.
Well,
So
there's
I
one other
understand your
thing.
opinion.
You also have approval for a ground sign. You
Yes,
can put the
there's
ground
a
sign
small,
on the
small
right,
ground
on the,
sign.
on the west. Oh,
Yep,
there
yep.
it is. And turn it on. That's easy. You already got approval for that.
I understand your feelings.
This is Gary
It's very
Gambrell.
small.
Isn't the sign, the ground sign that's approved, isn't it for a specific location?
No.
It's specifically on the east side. Does it run, what's the right way
I think
to say it?
maybe
Does
it'd
it
be a-
face north-south, or does it face?
Faces north-south.
Yeah, maybe it'd be a good
So
time.
you're watching, we're driving north, and we can see this side of the sign, we drive south, we're seeing this side of the sign.
It looks like that.
Can you show us, please, where that's going on your photos?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, I think now would be a good time for Ms. Zizzo from Community Development to come up and get ready to maybe answer some more questions.
Okay, that sign is going, I believe, right here. Can you see where I'm pointing on?
I see it.
Okay.
Can it be seen from Tamiami with all the trees and such?
Well, it is a small, it's only, the full sign is 7 foot overall height. It's, the sign itself is 42 inches high by 11 foot wide. And with all the trees, and it's not gonna be like, it is, you can probably see it, but it's not gonna be being that small. That's why they're trying to get all the help they can get.
So if I'm traveling north on Tamiami, I either have to make a U-turn, or if I make a U-turn at Bonita Beach Road, I can get back to the building and turn right into your parking lot at the ground sign,
Correct.
or I continue west on Bonita Beach and take a left onto Beaumont.
No, you have to go down.
You gotta go down
to
and make
the
a
next line,
U-turn.
Do a U-turn.
And come back and
And
make
then
a
come to
right
Beaumont,
at
make a
St.
right, and then
Leo's.
make a left.
yeah.
The only other comment I have is when I was looking at the space, Walgreens has signs on 3 sides of their building, and they don't have a sign on the south side, and I'm just looking at the pictures and looking at the site. I'm wondering if a sign on the south side is going to be seen at all. There's a real large billboard plus the trees on the south side of the building.
We're gonna be, trying to show you that billboard shot.
So you got the billboard, and then your sign for the building is, if we're lucky, you can see it underneath the billboard.
Yeah, it's gonna be about the building, when they were building that fascia on Friday. So it's gonna be about 2 feet below the billboard. And if you looked at my elevation drawing for that sign is down low enough that it will be below the billboard.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other question? Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned,
Mr. Chairman,
I,
Mr. Chairman, staff still hasn't given their presentation.
I'm sorry?
Staff hasn't given their presentation yet.
Please, I thought it was in writing. All right, let's get the staff presentation. Sorry about that. I'm new to this.
It's all right.
Good morning, I'm Mary Zizzo. On
May-
behalf of Community
May I have your
Development.
full name, please, again?
Mary Zizzo,
Mary?
Zizzo, Z-I-Z-Z-O.
Z-I,
ZZO.
C-I-Z-Z-O.
Yes, 3 Z's.
Zizzo. Un bel nome. Ok.
So I will make this presentation based off of the narrative we were provided at the time of application. And as mentioned, the applicant is requesting 2 additional wall signs for this double frontage parcel, where our code only allows 2 signs as is. They're requesting 4, 1 on each facade. Staff does recommend denial of this request. And so we're all familiar, this parcel is south of Bonita Beach Road and on the west side of 41. A closer up picture, just south of the Walgreens and north of the Wendy's. So as mentioned, they are requesting this variance to allow 2 additional wall signs. They do not currently have a permitted sign along Beaumont Road to the west. And then they are requesting an additional sign on the south elevation for traffic traveling north. This is a general site plan of what the site is to look like once constructed. And as mentioned, the end user at this point is Aspen Dental. So previously approved, hopefully this is a little bit more clear to understand. Sign A is the northern facade, which would face the parking lot. Sign B is the eastern facade, which would face 41. And sign E is their approved ground sign, which, as mentioned, will be off of 41 for north and south traffic. And so the requested signage is the south and the west wall sign. The west would be 68 square feet and the south would be 53.7 square feet to match the northern sign. And those are the proposed elevations, which we will come back to later. So essentially, this is their logo. This is what they're requesting on each side. This would be your view from Beaumont, in addition to the landscaping that is currently there that cannot be touched. And then this would be your view from Wendy's. And so the findings for the zoning board to consider, and all must be met, would be an exceptional or extraordinary condition that is inherent to this property in question. As staff has provided, we don't see a hardship for this specific case. Zoning board should also consider whether there's an exceptional or extraordinary condition or circumstance that is not the result of the applicant, taken subsequent to the 2015 amended ordinance. As mentioned, this lot was created in 2020. They created the building in accordance with the property development regulations, which is not in and of itself a hardship or an extraordinary condition. The variance should also be the minimum relief requested in order to relieve the burden. In this case, the applicants are permitted to request a ground sign along the west side, which would be along Beaumont Road. Because of the way the right-of-way is, it wouldn't be as close as the other one on 41, and there is landscaping there, as you saw. However, they are also permitted interior directional signs to assist those entering into the site. The granting of the variance shall not have an adverse impact. It's surrounded by commercial uses. We don't see this to be injurious to the neighborhood. But the intended use should not cause this to be a recurrent nature. And we do see this request to be something recurrent and something to set precedent that if we allow additional wall signs now, what's to stop further people coming in to ask for more wall signs because they want additional visibility from 41. And so as mentioned, staff does recommend denial of this application. Should zoning board recommend approval, we created a few conditions to make sure it's applicable only to this user, only to this lot, and cannot exceed what's approved today. And I'll further Requested signage would be in accordance with Chapter 6 of our Land Development Code. Also, if a ground sign is requested along Beaumont Road, then we would not allow the western wall sign or vice versa. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Ben Hershenson. Mary, if you could help me understand, you did mention the fact that there's a concern about precedent. Perhaps it might be Mr. Rooney could respond as well. What is the actual determination of a precedent-setting, say, variance from the standpoint of the impact on others? I mean, is that a very real issue that should this be done, that indeed the others could very well come forward? But is there any historical basis for that?
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, generally, there's no precedence in land use decisions. Each piece of property is unique. There are certain cases where in the past, for instance, on Little Hickory Island, where the zoning board has considered items with respect to variances from lots and setbacks, which are not unique, and so you're often looking at the same issues over and over again. So from an anecdotal perspective, there is some precedence in the fact that you'll get property owners who will come in and say, I can't do this, or it's impossible for me to get this view without this sign. But, you know, the precedent usually in those cases is, well, your neighbors all seem to be able to do it without asking for these variances. But as far as, you know, setting a precedent from this variance that would allow a proliferation of additional signage, no, there wouldn't be any concern there.
Will it set a trend for people to want to apply for that? Absolutely.
Mary, given some more thought, and with the approval of the applicant, would you consider moving the ground sign from the east side to the west side?
They are permitted a sign along each side.
Right. Would you consider moving
Moving
that
it
to the west?
entirely?
Given, obviously, you can't answer it now, but I mean, given some thought and consultation? Would you consider it? That's all I'm asking.
We absolutely would consider it.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Okay.
So this is Russ Wynn. So to be clear, we're a little concerned about if we did have the approval, that it might have other clients come in and kind of look through that and see if they could make some changes.
So many
Is
of
that
our
what your
applicants
concern
will
is?
look at what has previously been approved, and that
Right.
will persuade them whether to apply for it or not.
Right.
It's not to say that that you're bound to approve each one that comes in, but it definitely will persuade them to pursue that path.
Yeah.
But as Mr. Rooney indicated, each
Is to be unique,
application usually
correct?
is unique and refers only to one
Correct.
situation. So
Exactly, so you won't be bound by it, but
I wouldn't be concerned about a precedent.
Sorry?
Sorry?
What'd you say?
I said I wouldn't be concerned about setting a precedent for
Yeah,
something like
okay.
this.
Question for Mr. Rooney. Is this a yes or no on this variance request, or are we allowed to amend it at this point? Well, where I'm getting at is I'm thinking Walgreens has signs on 3 sides of the building. Why not allow this Aspen Dental to have it on the same 3 sides, east, west, and north, especially since the south side is really blocked by the billboard and trees and such?
I'm not sure what the factual circumstances surrounding the Walgreens. What I would say is that you absolutely have the ability to add conditions and to modify the request. I'd say if there's major wholesale modifications that might require detailed plans that we haven't had a chance to look over, that might be a thing to continue to another meeting for additional changes. But you're certainly, with the applicant's acquiescence, obviously, able to make modifications to the request.
And that, is it Beaumont Drive, Beaumont Lane? Beaumont. It's a nice country lane now. And there are no visible ground signs,
No.
readily visible ground signs. So I'm leaning against the first ground sign on Beaumont.
It's just a thought.
But another thought, or personal, for the sign company, has anybody thought about putting the street number on the east side, north and east side?
Of the building?
Mm-hmm. So no matter, especially because the entry to that is going to be so difficult, you got to know where you're going. So when my Garmin is telling me you're here, then I'm looking around for the street number.
Well, I haven't been involved in that, but I'm sure with 911, they're going to have the address definitely on the front, and then we can always, but it's going to be, again, we want, with the speed limit being 50, with a small, we want to have a sign. But
I just, as I'm driving up and down Tamiami, very few properties have the street numbers, so I know where I am. Just a passing thought. But Walgreens has signs on 3 sides. And
I don't know if
those three signs make sense.
They have a lot of drop-in traffic.
Very true. But you can't, neither of those properties can be entered from the south side, but they can be seen from the north side, and you can enter from the east or the west.
Gary, are those signs legal? Do you know? The 3 signs?
I have no idea. They're on the side of the building.
And I don't
Ms. Genson
understand.
looks like she has the answer.
Yeah. For the record, Jacqueline Genson, Planning and Zoning Manager. Just to give the board some context, in 2015, which it's referenced in the staff report, the City Council approved an amendment to the sign code. And what that was really based on was to put an emphasis on what we call place-making signs, especially with our monument signs. And what we allowed was the ability for applicants to place their ground-mounted signs or their monument signs closer to rights-of-way. So we actually went from a 15-foot setback to a 1-foot setback. In exchange, we went ahead and changed other regulations in the code, such as wall signs. There was previously, before that amendment, the opportunity for applicants to request wall signs on all sides of their building, and also ground-mounted signs, so long as they didn't exceed a maximum square footage allocation cap based on their road frontage. So that is why Walgreens has more wall signs than our current code allows. So we saw the benefit of exchanging signs closer to the right-of-way in limitations of wall signs on facades. As I can explain, we have received some concerns by other business owners that have developed under the new sign code, or the amended sign code rather, because they too are requesting additional wall signs. There's the Clean Machine Car Wash, there's the new Dunkin' Donuts on Bonita Beach Road, who have all asked, why can't I have more wall signs? And it's because of that amended sign code in 2015. So based on one of staff's recommendations, for denial is because this could be a reoccurring request in nature. So is it more appropriate to then, at that point, reevaluate what was approved in 2015? In terms of address letters, I'd like to touch on that. The sign code only requires the placement of address numbers on monument signs where that address is tied to that road frontage. So for example, if Aspen Dental has a US 41 address, then they are required to put the address numbers on their walls, or on their ground signs.
And their address is Beaumont?
I'm not familiar with their address.
Did you say the address number has to be on monument signs? Has to be on ground signs?
Correct, I believe it does. I'll quickly check the code, but I believe it does.
It doesn't look like it's on this ground sign.
Is it in, I don't know if it's installed yet. Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, what she's saying is that the contractor, our sign company's only putting the panel in the existing sign. We don't have anything to do with putting the structure of the sign in, just the panel that says Aspen Dental. So that would be on the, I believe.
But Jackie just said that
Yeah, it would be
street
on the-
numbers were required on
On the monument itself.
On the monument
and-
side.
And not the panel. So he's
Correct, so
only-
they're just
his-
doing the panel.
He's only showing you the part he's doing. He's not doing the part that has the addressing.
Correct, but our sign does require numbering to be on there, our sign code. And so that will be on there once the actual ground sign is constructed.
So the street number has to be on the ground sign.
Correct.
And we weren't, previous boards, previous staff, whatever, weren't required to be submitted a drawing that shows the street number?
We were not provided that from this applicant, no.
I have a question. I guess I'm having difficulty in understanding precisely what is the hardship.
That's my initial question.
I think people not able to see.
Grab a hold of that, and right now I can't. And I'm willing to listen, but I don't have it yet.
No, I agree.
It's a difficult property to get to.
He just said it. That's what I've been trying to relate. It's difficult because of the speed limit, 50 miles per hour. And being that you can't take a left turn straight off 41 into the site, and all the landscaping and the buildings, that's why their hardship is they want the clients to see the sign to give them advance warning so they don't miss the turn, have to go through all the turns.
How is the sign going to relieve the traffic issue? It's not.
Well, it does,
You're still going to have to make a U-turn or your left or right. It's signs
well, at least
are
they can see it.
irrelevant.
At least you can see it on the approach. There it is. I got to be, instead of going all the way up, coming down and doing the turns.
Not a hardship.
Okay, your opinion?
Yeah, but you're not going to have walk-in clients. You're not a fast food restaurant or a convenience store. Anybody's going there knows where they are. Knows where they are. They have an appointment. Sorry.
Yep, you're entitled to
Yeah,
your opinion.
I personally am not persuaded that you have a hardship.
Okay, I understand.
Anything else? Should we vote?
Just open it up to any public comment if there's anyone here from the public.
I'm sorry.
I doubt it, but I'm just.
No public comments. Okay. In
I
that case-
have a comment I just want to make. It's to clarify something. I had an ex parte discussion with a staff member, Jackie Jensen, concerning some of the aspects of this particular proposal, mostly technical questions. I will fill out an appropriate form to be submitted because I did have a conversation via phone. So that's all. Does not impact this one ever, but I just wanted to say that for the
And that
record.
doesn't
No, I-
violate this
No, no.
sunshine law, whatever. it is.
I apologize. I had intended to mention. Just a reminder, if you have any ex parte communications or if you do a site visit to the location, you are required to disclose that during the meeting before the vote is taken so that
Site visits and ex parte
any ex
discussions
parte,
with
staff
anybody,
or applicants or objectors, neighbors, anything like
or
that. yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
or other members of the board.
You should never talk to other members of the board. That's, the other members of the board is the sunshine issue.
that.
Right,
The ex
that's a
parte
sunshine
issue is
issue.
just
The other one is some
fundamental
kind of
fairness,
ex parte
due
issue.
process, yes.
Understood. Okay.
So Gary Gambrell, ex parte discussion with staff via email and site visit.
Bruce Galloway, site visit.
Russ never does his
No.
homework, so, you know, that's.
Oh, good. Okay.
All right.
So this should be done before the vote, this disclosure, or immediately?
We could do it, well, we could probably do, we'll talk about it a little bit at the end of the meeting, but I would say that we probably have the ex parte disclosures at the beginning of each item.
Oh, okay.
That way, it's done, and you don't have to think about it again. It's kind of hard to do it at the beginning of the very meeting, because you might have a whole bunch of ex parte, but I'd say do it at the
Yeah.
beginning of each item.
I'm just making notes of each item, okay. Okay, so we've done that, ex parte.
Once we vote, is there a way to explain our vote, why we voted that way? Is it,
So the best course of action is, because you are the fact finder in this situation, so you're making factual findings. Whether it is a vote, if it's a vote to support, a vote to support should always be based on the evidence presented. If there is a vote to deny, then it should be noted by the prevailing side, the reasons for the denial. Was it because they failed to meet one of the standards, so that can be expressed in writing to the applicant? Often you will not know how the vote's going to turn out at the end, so you don't know to make those comments as you go in. What I would recommend is, just to make sure there's no confusion, is to, before the vote is called, or maybe after a motion's been made and seconded, to discuss your various concerns, so that, it's clear which way you're intending to go, and then when the vote is made, If it fails and an expression of why it fails has not been made prior, then I would say go ahead and state the reason why you voted against the motion. But you don't have to explain yourself otherwise, other than denials. Okay. I know it's it's kind of a complicated answer, Mr. Campbell.
Okay, I would like to call for a motion to deny the request for a variance. I make that motion.
And
I
the
will
basis-
second it.
And the basis for your denial would be
Sorry?
Your
Denial
base-
to deny the.
for failure to meet the hardship requirement?
Yeah, I am not persuaded that there is a hardship involved. And we have a motion, we have a second. Take a vote. All in favor?
Discussion, please.
Yes.
So I'm going to vote against the variance request because it's a four-sided request. We want to put signs on four sides of the building. If this was for three sides, my vote would be yay.
So we have 1, 2, 3 opposed? Opposed. 4 and? Okay. So the variance is denied. Thank you.
Did you get all the vote, did you get the vote on that, Debbie?
Who seconded that?
I did.
The
Ben
Hirschman.
Hershenson, sorry.
Okay, thank you, yes.
Okay.
With the next item, would it be easier for you if staff gave their presentation up front to just to lay the groundwork?
Do we have Mr. or Mrs. Zabatsky here? There's Mrs. Zabatsky. Okay. Well, what the protocol is, madam, is that we have the presentation and then we have the public comment. So if you don't mind, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So the staff has recommended that the variance be granted, and we should hear from the staff. Mr. Rooney. And again, please forgive me, I need, because I don't know everybody, you are?
It's not a problem. I'm Mike Fegon.
Mike, were you sworn in?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
I am the senior.
Mike, and the last name?
Fiigon.
Figon.
Yep, Fegon.
Okay.
It's on the staff report. I am the staff member who wrote the staff report and provided the
Oh, I guess
recommendation
I
for this
just didn't
case.
catch up with it. Okay.
So I'll go ahead and go through the brief presentation that I have, and we will go from there. So just a quick synopsis of the team within community development that reviewed this case. We had environmental review, engineering, we had our floodplain manager also review it, and we had our surveyor and planner also review this request, as well as myself. So the variance itself, it's actually several variances for a very unique shaped lot. And I figured the best way to do it, other than, we have the very wordy request, which is the legal request, but I went ahead and provided a little table below that sort of shows you more simply what it is that's being requested versus what's required for these types of setbacks. So they're requesting a 5-foot reduction in the street setback, a 1-foot reduction in the side yard setback, and anywhere from a 10-foot to a 14-foot reduction in the water body setback for principal and accessory structures on this little tiny lot on Hickory Island. So the citywide location map, the yellow star is approximately where we're located. Zooming in a little bit, the property is outlined there in blue. You have Fish Trap Bay to the east. You have Hickory Boulevard, additional single family, and the Gulf of Mexico to the west. And even though these GIS maps, when you put the parcel lines on there, they're not entirely accurate, this one's actually kind of sort of close in the sense that the parcel lines and the platted lines for this lot of record do extend into the water. So because of that, and because the owners don't have a submerged lands deed, they really don't own anything beyond the edge of the water. So they have the actual usable land area, which just shrinks everything down even more as far as what they could actually do with the land and where things could actually be placed on site. The future land use and the zoning. The future land use is of a residential category that allows for single-family development. The zoning is RS1, residential single-family. It's a very standard, conventional residential zoning district found throughout the city of Bonita. No real issues or concerns there as far as compatibility goes with either the zoning or the land use category. And as far as surrounding property, again, what they're doing as far as what the overall goal is, you have single family essentially on all four sides. You also have the two water bodies, and you have the Hickory Boulevard right-of-way. It's in a single-family area. For anybody who's been out to Little Hickory Island, you have maybe one or two tiny commercial nodes, and the majority of it is residential of some kind, whether that's single-family or multifamily condo buildings. What they're proposing here, essentially, is they have an older home that was built in 1962. It's on a lot of record that goes back to the 1940s, which predates zoning law. The home was built in its current position. There were some repairs that were pulled by the previous owner to try and do some repair work on the building. But overall, what we have here is a non-conforming lot and a non-conforming structure that's on the lot. And we also have a home that is not meeting its flood zone criteria. So when that's the case, you're limited as an owner to the types of improvements that you can make to an existing structure. Long story short, FEMA doesn't want you spending money improving structures that are below the flood line. So the current owners would like to demolish the home and put up something that meets the latest building codes and that meets the latest FEMA regulations, and they need these setback reliefs in order to be able to do that. So this was a copy of the survey that was provided by the applicant that shows the existing structure. And what I did is I have the nonconformities of the lot itself shown in green. Just to give you an example, what I have circled right there are the depths of the lot. We require a depth of at least 100 feet, and as you can clearly see, this lot does not meet that 100-foot depth requirement. It's 80 feet at its deepest point. And that's just to the water line. Again, the actual platted property line may be a little bit longer, but as far as what's usable, it's well below the 100-foot depth. And then as far as setbacks go for the existing structure, we have many nonconformities associated with it. So in a certain sense, you have this structure that's been there for 56 years. They're looking to demolish it and put up something new, but they're still going to need some semblance of setback relief to be able to do that. So this is the proposed site plan or concept plan, if you will, for what it is that they are requesting along with the requested setbacks. They're actually going to be improving the setback along Hickory a little bit, like we showed on the previous slide. They're at about 17 feet now. They're proposing to scoot it back to about 20 feet, which is more in line with the other lots up and down that side of Hickory Boulevard. Staff report on page 5 that showed that there were many variances granted in the surrounding area for similar circumstances. This is an issue on Hickory Island because of how unique each lot is as far as its size and shape and character. So this is something that has happened before, and because of that, we don't think it would be injurious because much of the neighborhood has had to go through this process, unfortunately. But tying into that, we don't believe, even though it is relatively reoccurring, we don't believe that amending the land development code is the answer either, simply because each situation out on Little Hickory Island is so unique. It would be pretty difficult to write a land development regulation that would cover all of it. So instead, these issues are better handled on a case-by-case basis, which is what we're doing here today. So the staff recommendation is approval of the variance, and we did put some conditions in the staff report for that. For an example, obviously, we want to limit the variance to the lot in question. We want to make sure we get very clearly what the setbacks would be, a 20-foot front setback, a 6.5-foot side yard setback, a principal water body setback of 15 feet and 6.5 feet based on the site plan, and an elevated accessory water body setback of 15 feet. And we also put a condition in there that showed that the use of the lot in its current configuration is limited to one single-family home with accessory structures, again, keeping compatibility with the neighborhood and the surrounding area, the zoning and the land use. And unless modified by this approval, all other portions of the land development code and the building code are going to remain in full force and effect. We're not talking about any building code deviations or FEMA elevation deviations. We're talking strictly setbacks. And with that, if you have any questions or comments of staff, we also have the applicant representative here as well if you want to hear from them. But we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can a house be built on this lot without varying any setbacks?
A very small, skinny house could possibly be built, yes.
So a house can be built. It may not be the house that the applicant wants.
True.
But a house can be built.
Under the Florida Building Code, yes, a house could be built.
Okay. What is the need for the decrease in the side yard setbacks?
So part of that has to do with, and I'll go back to the aerial here. Actually, I could do it right here from the survey. Now we'll go back to the aerial. The aerial is probably better to do it. So as you can see, you have a water body behind here, and then you have this little like L-shaped jut, and technically part of that L would be a water body setback, but also a side setback, so maybe this is the easier way to do it. You can kind of see where the seawall runs here and juts out like that. So this is the property. So from this point, it would be a 25-foot setback under normal circumstances, and then another 7.5 feet from here. So this is where you get, maybe my very skinny area of right here of where a house could be put. So the idea was to provide relief on the water body and the side just to help expand the footprint. Also understanding that this green line right here shows the lot line originally. So it's actually a combination of two lots. And this lot right here, as platted, is a 50-foot wide lot. So actually, if this property were to be split, for an example, it would only be a 5-foot setback, which is even less restrictive. So providing the 6.5 foot was sort of the way of splitting the baby in half. You provide the relief on the water body, but you're also getting potentially a stricter side yard setback from the neighbor than what otherwise could be possible.
So the side yards, you're saying, are going from, the requirement now is 7.5 feet?
7.5 to 6.5.
You're asking to reduce that, or the applicant's asking to reduce that to 6.5?
Yes.
I still don't understand why. There seems to be a lot of room on either side.
Well, that's just it, though, because the water body here, because this is where in the site plan the house would be situated, this wouldn't normally be a 7.5 foot setback. Because of the water body, it'd be 25 feet. So it'd be a 25-foot side setback here and 7.5 feet here. So the idea was to try and provide a semblance of relief to be able to situate the house more centered on that particular lot.
You can show this as well.
Oh, good call. Okay.
As a visual.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and pull up that portion actually of the applicant's presentation. He has another slide that may be more helpful in that regard. Where do you go? There you go. It's the first one. You want to go ahead and step in and explain?
You have to.
Sir,
Hello, everybody. My name is Camden Ashmore. I have not been sworn in
Okay.
yet.
And ma'am, you were going to speak on this too. I'm going to have you swear in at this time. If you could raise your right hand, just repeat it. Swear or affirm that you intend to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Fegan, as he was presenting the current conditions for the lot, he did a fantastic job explaining the current situation between the lot and the hardship that we will endure if we do not get this particular variance request granted. And if you will notice here on this site plan, this is a site plan of the existing lot with what would be the existing setbacks now. And you can see the hatched area is the maximum allowable building area if we have to conform to the existing setbacks that are in place from the land development code. So as you'll notice on the north side of the property, that setback line essentially crosses over itself at one point and creates completely unbuildable area on that whole northern, let's call it the L, the longer L portion of that lot. Whereas the southern portion that's a little bit deeper, again, the lot itself now still does not meet the minimum lot depth required for that zoning for the RS1 zone classification. So as such, I believe it's about 85 feet deep with a 25-foot front setback and a 25-foot rear setback from the water body. That creates a buildable area of about 18 feet by 32 feet deep, which if you've driven down that area, you know those houses along each of those streets are significantly larger than that. As such,
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Could you orient me on this map? Where's Hickory?
Sure. Let's see. This is north, pointing this way. So Hickory Boulevard is right here.
Okay.
And this is the front of the house. So If we have an approximate 83-foot depth of the, let's call it the most buildable part of the lot, we're quite restricted to a 32-foot deep house by approximately 18 feet wide with our current setbacks.
Why is it restricted? I understand the front yard restriction.
Sure.
25 feet. I understand the rear yard
Yes.
restriction.
This one,
Right. Now, go down. What is all that right in there, that
This-
blank? Why is that restricted?
because this is still part of the property line, as such, this is our water line, and from the water line, we would have a 25-foot setback, and from the front, we would have a 25-foot setback. They, as you can see here, that allows for maybe 2 feet of buildable area, whereas here, they essentially intersect and create, there's nothing that could be built here. So with a 25-foot front setback and a 25-foot rear setback, this side of the house is about, or the property rather, is about 53 feet deep. So eliminating 50 feet of the lot area presents no opportunity for any sort of house or structure, for that matter, to be constructed here.
But that's not the property line, that's the water line, that's
This-
mean high
this-
tide?
Yes, this is the water line and the property line right here.
Okay.
So this area here is water.
That's the water.
Essentially, the lot forms an L shape, if you will, where the majority of those lots, and that's what Mr. Fegan presented initially, is that the majority of the lots along Hickory Boulevard are quite non-conforming as they are now, and unique lots. This one is especially non-conforming and especially unique because it's only 53 feet deep at its smaller part and 83 feet deep at its longer part, whereas it should be 100 feet deep for the true RS1 zoning classification. So because of its unique nature, we are requesting some somewhat unique variances to the setbacks. Now, the 6.5-foot setback that was being questioned on the south side over here presents just a little bit larger of a buildable area for us to construct a house. So if we are granted our variance requests on all sides and fronts, we were requesting for the side setback to be reduced from 7.5 feet to 6.5 feet to allow for a slightly larger, that 1 foot makes all the difference in the world in allowing us to create a usable layout in this particular footprint. So if we were granted our variance request, we'd have about 36 feet of building width that we'd be able to use for our main house. And that would be about 45 feet deep. So 36 by 45 feet deep for the main residence. Whereas we plan for, I'll give you a little bit visual now, excuse me for this is very basic representation of the idea. But as you can see from the rear back here, this would be all water. And from our seawall to our structure is, right there is approximately 15 feet 4 inches. So that allows us to utilize the larger portion of that southern side of the lot for the main house. And this area will essentially just be utilized for outdoor pool area, entertaining and whatnot, and some deck space. So because it's only about 14 feet deep of buildable area there, even with the setbacks that are being requested, that's still not significant to be able to, use it for bedrooms and true living space and AC space and whatnot. So with this in mind, that kind of gives us the best use for the lot that we can come up with that's not being obtrusive to the neighbors and whatnot. And with that in mind, even with the reduction in the side setback from 7.5 feet to 6.5 feet, we would be allowed to, if we didn't get the setback reduced to 6.5 feet from the 7.5 feet, we would be allowed to cantilever some mechanical platforms out about 3 feet into the side yard setback. So that would effectively present 4.5 feet between the edge of that cantilever and the lot line. We're not proposing to cantilever any mechanical equipment out into that setback line. If we are granted the 6.5-foot side setback, as you can see, we plan to have kind of a mechanical cove for the equipment. So that way it's still tucked back and it effectively is still 6.5 feet from the side yard instead of 4.5 feet if we had to use a cantilever. So we don't feel that that we would be imposing onto the neighbors and to the south or to the north by requesting a lesser setback on those sides.
You plan to put, answer the neighbor's question?
Yes, sir.
You plan to put your air conditioning units on the south side?
We do plan to put them on the south side, yes, because that's the only area where we can have the main building, the residence constructed. And it wouldn't make any sense for us to run the HVAC equipment from the north to the south.
And it's going to be there. whether it's 6 feet or 7 feet or 6.5 feet, it's gonna be there, it's gonna make the same amount of noise and whatever, so.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
I have a couple of questions. I don't know whether you could respond, or perhaps Mike.
Sure.
Two questions. On the issue dealing with flood zone standards, currently it does not comply. Is that correct?
That's correct. Currently,
Okay.
the existing house is
And so
well
the
below.
idea would be if that is, raised or demolished, the current structure, that would put it into compliance with FEMA flood zone regulations. Is that correct, Mike? Is that what you stated? Something to that effect.
That is correct. Essentially, you have two options, either raise the structure or demo it. The problem is, as we showed on the other survey, the existing structure is still very non-conforming as far as setbacks. So it helps with one issue, but not the other. Either they're going to come in for a variance with the existing structure that's old, that's 56 years old, or they come in for variances with a new structure that can meet both FEMA requirements and building code.
Okay, and one other question, a follow-up, would be with respect to, we discussed this earlier, it comes to the issue of other properties along Hickory. Have they gone to the city and received other similar types of variances because of nonconformity with that lot? Are you aware of any?
Yes, in fact, on page 5 of the staff
That's
report,
right, there's several.
I provided a list that showed, and those aren't all of them on Hickory Island, those were just some of the surrounding area that we chose to show that it's relatively
This is not a
common.
precedent-setting sort of a situation.
Each one is very unique out on Hickory, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't suggested to amend the code.
I got you, thank you. Okay.
Questions?
I'm sorry. you
Gary
still have a
Gambrell,
question?
disclosure, had a real nice ex parte. It was a party conversation with Mike about the project, and I've been to the site. Question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I forgot your name.
Camden. It's a little bit unique, Camden.
Camden.
Spelled C-A-M-D-E-N.
Camden Yards. I hear
Camden,
there's something
New
like that in
It's like
Baltimore.
just spelled like them both, yes, sir.
So thinking ahead to Ms. Zabevsky's, and we all read your comments, Ms. Zabevsky, so we're ahead of you a little bit, or right with you a little bit. So we're talking about mechanicals going on the outside of the wall right there. Because that's the closest way to get it into the house.
Correct.
Has any thought been given to putting the mechanicals in the crook of the L?
It would be somewhat challenging because we would have to, any mechanical equipment has to be above the floodplain, right? So if we're in an AE 16 flood zone there, the bottom of our lowest structural horizontal member has to be 17 feet, and there cannot be any mechanical or electrical equipment below that level. So we would have to, at this stage, this would be generator, and above that would be the condensing units. We would have to make sure that all of that mechanical equipment, the ductwork, electrical running to it, is running above that flood elevation, which would create some challenges because we'd have to create some conduits and whatnot that would run from that side over to the main house. And it would not allow for us to construct any sort of, or rather design a usable layout for there. So it's the shortest run that we can make from the mechanical equipment to the areas in the house that it's feeding and being supplied, and the supplies and the returns.
So you've got a generator up on stilts a little bit to get it out of the floodplain?
I wouldn't say that it's on stilts, no, it's actually elevated.
On a concrete pad?
Yeah, it's just a kind of an alcove built at the finished floor height of the main house.
So this representation you're showing us now doesn't show anything like what or is it around the corner?
No, it's right here. That would be the generator, and this would be the alcove for the air conditioning units. Now, we had those design considerations in mind, so we are not limited to having to extend them. We have within our rights to extend them 3 feet beyond the setback line from the house into the side yard setback. So if let's postulate that we have a 7.5-foot side yard setback and we extend our pad 3 feet, now we're 4.5 feet from the side yard setback line, whereas now we plan for it to be tucked into the main footprint of the house, which effectively will keep it at least 6.5 feet away from the side yard setback.
But the edge of the house is 6.5 feet setback.
That's correct.
But the units are tucked in a little more.
Are tucked in even further than that, yes, sir.
6 inches?
Yeah,
foot.
depends on the size of the units that will need to get in there, but I would say the HVAC condensing units themselves will probably be about 1.5 feet, 2 feet tucked in from from the edge of the building, whereas the generator needs a little bit more room away from the main structure, and it would probably be about a foot.
So my AC unit is on the
this-
third floor.
Correct.
And it's surrounded by 3 walls.
That's correct.
And are you running air conditioning to the cabana toilet?
No. We would
So that's
be-
just got
for that
electricity in
area,
it,
right.
water and electricity.
We'd put a small mini split system, and this is only for a half bath, for a pool bath.
Okay, so I'm learning here.
Sure.
What's underneath? Is it just strictly storage underneath the pool?
Yes,
and
because of its VE flood zone designation, the ground floor can only be used for garage and storage, and it must be constructed of breakaway walls. So at that ground level, there is no air-conditioned space. It's not allowed, with the exception of a small entry area to access the main living area of the house. So this area itself will be air-conditioned, and that stairway will continue up. Essentially, from that ground level, you'd be entering the main floor of the house from this area, if that gives you a little bit of
So you
perspective.
couldn't put the generator and the HVAC equipment underneath the pool if you wanted
We
to?
cannot. No, it has to be above.
It's got to be up above
That's correct.
floodwaters.
Yes, sir.
Those are nice pictures. That would have been, that helps show what's going on a lot.
Sure.
So we can't put it inside.
Correct.
If
We
if
are
put
allowed
it-
to put
if we put
pool
it on.
equipment at
Go ahead.
grade. We are allowed to put pool equipment at ground level if we need to.
So the pool pump's in there and the
Yeah.
filter system.
Yeah.
And we can't put, right where your cursor just was, we can't put, could the generator and HVAC be up on stilts there?
They could, but not intruding into that, because that's not a side yard setback. So actually, I digress. They would not be able to. We wouldn't be able to cantilever anything into the rear yard or front yard setbacks. That's only allowed
Cantilever.
for side yard setbacks.
Cantilever. But
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from Mr. Ashmore?
Yes, Bruce Galloway. I did visit the site. The hardship that you're claiming is the size and shape of the lot,
Correct.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And your client, I assume, knew that when they bought the lot, that it was a substandard lot?
Sure. Just like many of them are on the
Okay,
streets.
and that
Each
to
of the
build,
neighboring lots as
and to
well.
build the house that they wanted, they were going to have to get a variance?
Correct.
Or a series of variances,
Sure.
correct? Okay. What assurance do we have, if we would approve the variances, what assurance do we have that, for example, the questions that Gary asked about where the air conditioning is going, where the generator is going, what assurance do we have that the house is actually going to fit on the lot like that?
Well, because as Mr. Fegan stated initially, we're not requesting any variances from the building code that's already established.
I'm
Rather
talking about
simply
the house
setbacks.
placement, not building, I'm not just talking about the house placement on the lot. What assurance do we have that it will conform to the drawings that you're submitting to us now?
Well, this is really the only usable footprint that we can create for this layout of the lot. Because of its unique shape, we really don't have any room to put anything unique over here or any sort of a living area within that footprint of the proposed structure. So this proposed layout is as close as we can get to maximizing the usability of this lot as it stands with approval of those requests. And to be honest, although this is a preliminary design, this is something that the homeowners are quite pleased with. We understood that we took a risk in coming up with a preliminary design ahead of having any approvals granted, but we were just trying to get some ideas flowing, and also assumed it would be helpful to have some examples to show you here so you could visualize what we're requesting.
Okay, so these aren't the minimum variances required. You just said this is the maximum square
This would be
footage
the
we can
maximum-
get.
This would be as large as we could make it if we were granted our current request. We cannot make it any larger, nor could we exceed any of the setbacks beyond how we depict them now.
Would your client agree to a condition that the footprint of the structure conform to the layout as proposed in your plans?
I believe that, yes, they would accept that the footprint will not be altered.
Okay.
Mind you, we're completely adjusting the interior elements, but the footprint itself is not planning to be altered in any capacity.
And maybe a condition that the HVAC and generator will be placed as on the south side,
Correct.
within that footprint?
I was just going to suggest that if the board wanted to make, advise us to make a condition that of the placement of the mechanical equipment and that it be recessed as opposed to cantilevered out in the open, that I think that'd be acceptable as well.
I think we should hear from Mrs. Zabowski.
Sure.
With respect to that. Is it time for, are you through, are we?
I just have a
through with
question.
Mr. Ashmore?
And the question is this, I want to quite understand, and I'm anxious to hear her commentary, Mrs. Zabowski, but the question I have is, and I'm not a sound expert, but it seems to me that is there a decibel difference between 6.5 and 7.5 feet? I don't know that. And perhaps nobody here has that particular answer, but somebody from zoning, and I don't know. I just need to know.
There is, from the perspective that the way the current mechanical equipment code is written, if they satisfy a 7.5-foot setback, they now have the ability to allow that equipment to encroach, and they can encroach up to 3 feet. So actually, the mechanical equipment would be allowed closer if they set back further, as opposed to right now, everything would be locked in at 6.5 feet. So from that perspective, there would be a difference just from the sheer fact it'd be closer.
Anything else from Mr. Ashmore? Can we hear from Mrs. Zabowski?
Please.
Would you please take this?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you.
Would you, excuse me, would you swear in the
She
witness?
was sworn in earlier.
Oh, she was sworn in.
I'm tracking the big crowds.
Good morning. A little history. We actually purchased the third parcel. There was a third parcel attached to these two parcels from the Wrights. We also went through a variance process because we had a cutout in a waterway, which they had a dock that used to come in. So we have no objection, and we understand their property lines as far as front and back because it just makes sense. They are unusually unique lots. Our only concern is that when we were purchasing our lot, we were told that because his lot is 100 feet and by the combined lot, that he would always be at 7.5 feet. We also, at the time we were building, we had just put in our AC unit. They had changed, there were some changes, I guess, going on with the zoning for the AC units, and we're told that all other units from here on in were to go up on the roof. They actually told us we were going to have to put it on the roof as well at the time. But we are already beyond, we had been approved, we had been inspected, and no such ruling had been, I guess, voted on or put into play at that point. So we were granted. So we are cantilevered, as we were talking about, on that side of the building. Our bedrooms, all of them, all three of them, are actually on that wall. That was the concern that we were trying to understand, that if they were granted the 6.5, were they still able to cantilever, which is what I'm understanding is they are not. I mean, they could, I guess, but based on this plan, it's showing that it's being indented and put in there. My only concern after hearing all of this is that not only is it going to be, ours is just one small pad, this is actually a 2-level mechanical that's happening. So I'm getting it across all my bedrooms, everywhere, and that's a little bit concerning. My other concern here is, while I appreciate and I think it's wonderful that you're putting it enclosed, but one of the things we did learn in doing that is on the front, we have a patio, very tall, because we have 12-foot ceilings there, and the noise level from the 3 walls is intense. We get it off the street. And in hindsight, we think about this and say, wow, I didn't really know that those 3 tall concrete walls would attract so much noise. So, I mean, just sitting here, I'm thinking about that, saying, wow, that's going to be right here hitting our concrete wall and just creating this huge amount of noise, also from inside, but also to us. So my question is, In terms of the 6.5, I understand that. I think that's, it is what it is. But again, somebody had raised the question, can you put it somewhere else? Can you put it build it somehow since it's not already in plans? Where the cabana is, it is still elevated at the same level. All around the house is all elevated. Can you put it somewhere in a roof line? That would be my only question at this point.
So you're not alleging that the noise would be different if the setback remained at 7.5 feet, rather than 6.5 feet?
No, I'm not alleging that. I'm just saying, I'm just asking the question, is there, there have been other instances where it does go into a roof line, or they have a whole nother lot basically away where they could maybe put something as well. That's all I'm saying, because they have that whole other, even though it's narrow, it is a whole nother ability to move it somewhere. That's all.
So
Thank you.
you purchased from the Wrights and built new. And what year was that?
2016?
So recently? And where is your AC, HVAC mechanical?
Right there.
Which wall?
The wall that would be facing their wall, but.
So the north wall.
Further, yeah.
So,
So I'm surprised they would,
So the north, your HVAC units are outside the building on the north wall?
let me understand then, please, that your air conditioning units are near your bedrooms?
Underneath, yes.
They are? Same
Yes.
place? Okay.
Yeah, one,
On the outside
Just for
wall,
clarification.
beneath the bedrooms?
yes.
And you're concerned that,
With all of them, not only for us, but for them, all the units all being there, plus the way they're doing it, is that
does cantilevered mean it's inside that box?
outside. It's on a, just like it would be just sitting out here in the open.
The design that it's inside of 3 walls is, what does
That's not
cantilevered, what does
cantilevered.
cantilevered mean?
It's just an open pad with a little gating around it. It's just open air but just the
If I
one.
may, imagine the vertical wall surface and a 3-foot pad attached to the house with some structural supports, just simply to hold the pad. So you have your vertical wall surface on the north side, and then a 3-foot platform extending from that wall. That would be considered a cantilever.
Right. Which, again, I understand. I mean, I think it's, visually better the way they're doing it. I was just asking the question, if this is the plan with the 6.5 foot, I'm not going to say that it's bad. We're not objecting to it. At this point, all I was saying is bringing it up if there is another placement for consideration. Otherwise.
Did you
we're okay.
see other ideas for where else it could go, now that you've seen what we've seen?
I'm asking, because I know they put it sometimes into a roof line, anywhere in a roof line. I've seen that done. I mean, that's actually what they're doing most of the time now as they move forward in building new buildings. And, I mean, we already had it was installed, the lines, they had been inspected, but they had said you could put it in your roof line. The roof was on, everything was done, and they said, well, that's what people are doing now as they're building new buildings, they're putting it up in a roof line somewhere. Or, as I said, put it somewhere on the other side of the cabana house. They're putting a little unit there, so they're running some lines, but that's it. But in terms of our conversation today, the 6.5 feet, based on what they're proposing, I have no objections. We have no objections, I should say. It is fine.
So would you like to ask Mr. Ashmore why not put it on the roof?
May I do that?
We had considered that because, again, we were trying to design something that is pleasing to the eye from the street and from neighbors, and obviously to be as unobtrusive with noise as possible. Problems with putting it, let's say, on the north side in the cabana area is that, again, we have to run all of the ductwork all the way from that side to the main house, and that has to be above that flood elevation. And our finished floor elevation as it stands now is already designed to be as low as we can, because we also have height restrictions within that building envelope to work within. So to put it on the north side is also not very feasible from a logistical standpoint of running it there. And then it begs the question that eventually the house to the north is also going to be knocked down and present challenges or maybe some issues for the future homeowners there. Putting it on the roof, that does happen, but again, It goes on the roof because the mechanical equipment, if it's not into the side yard setback, has to be contained within the building footprint of the house. So they put them on the roof because it's within the building's, the lot's buildable area. That presents challenges from accessing it for service and repairs. In addition, it's already difficult enough to get to those elevated heights on the side of the house, let alone going on top of the roof. And we just really hate to put any flat spots on roofs because water will always find a way to get in somehow.
Tell me about
So
it.
we're just opposed to it going on the roof for mainly those two reasons. But yes, it was considered, and we're trying to design this as cleanly as we can for all parties involved, and still present a semblance of a usable layout for the homeowners now.
Thank you.
Why wouldn't the alcove that you're putting your mechanical equipment in act as an echo chamber? 'Cause I think that's what the lady was trying to tell us.
It's
about
like a
the
big
walls and
speaker.
shit.
It's just, whatever noise it was making, it's going to be worse now.
Right, it's going to echo around, it'll blast them out.
Well, I can't say that it won't, but again, if we are not allowed that foot reduction, then we will be forced to cantilever it just because we'll have to make up some square footage on the inside of the house. We
No,
won't have the choice.
let's assume that you get the 1-foot reduction.
Yep.
Would that eliminate the need for the alcove?
If we.
That's what I'm talking about, the echo chamber.
The alcove is designed there because of the 1-foot reduction, so if we don't get that, or let's maybe just throw ideas around, if we do get the 1-foot reduction still, would it be more pleasing would we be able to cantilever out 2 feet, and instead of having it a 3-foot cantilever from a 7.5-foot setback, we have a 2-foot cantilever from a 4.5-foot from a 6.5-foot setback. So, but there would be less noise going into the alcove. I'm just, again, throwing around ideas, but even if we have to stay with a 7.5-foot setback, we can still put them in an alcove if we choose to. So
How high up is the alcove?
it's about, let's call it, probably 14 feet above ground level.
And
That's about the 17-foot
That's the
flood requirement.
first floor.
how will the generator and the air conditioner be serviced?
By a ladder. Just like all of the other units along Hickory, they all have to be elevated as well, and that's how typically their access is, from a permanent ladder affixed to the structure, or of course, a HVAC company brings their own.
I'm just pointing this out, I don't know if this is practical or if not, but on Fort Myers Beach, they have a lot of this situation, a lot of homes built right close to each other. And in some of the settlements of lawsuits between people over these air conditioners, fast-growing and tall areca plants, palms were used because they really did a good job screening visually and the noise. Would that be something that would be for consideration?
Absolutely. I
Landscaping?
believe you have some on your property already for that reason.
We have between us beautiful ficus hedges, at least to be beautiful, they're growing back. But the other thing is they have 2 floors of mechanicals. It's not just the first level, it's also above it is the second level, so,
This plan has 2 levels.
That's
The
like
generator that
20,
would only turn
20.
on.
But the generator doesn't make any noise.
Oh, the generator's going up top?
Generator's the first level.
Correct.
Generator's first level, can we flip it?
Probably, yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
Put the air conditioning's on the
I
bottom, put
believe
the
so.
generator on top, because that's where the main bedrooms are all running
Yeah,
there.
I think we could do that. That could probably work, yeah.
Sounds good.
And some landscaping to give some additional shielding?
Sure.
Or perhaps another option would be, and Ken can probably speak to this better than I can, if it's possible to do any sound deadening material along those exterior walls.
Absolutely. It wouldn't help significantly, but,
It would capture some of the bounce.
there's
I think-
there's some ideas there, sure.
Because when those things kick on, it's a loud pop.
It is, can be. But again, yeah, you have them on your north side there too, so once there's 2 tall walls there, I do understand your concern for bouncing.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
close, so that's,
Sure.
that's
Yeah,
what
that's a
I'm,
unique
and I
nature
just,
of those lots.
this was not in my, I was just listening to this and seeing that, and I just thought of that, and I know,
Yeah.
we learned that the hard way.
I have a question. I'm hearing interesting discussion here.
Sure.
And that's great. I like that. When the standpoint of compromise. I'm beginning to think that perhaps, I'm going to ask this question, is there a problem if we were to delay a decision on this so you can work out some of the things, so we could do that. Well, we could do that, it's not here. We could do that, needs to be here, so that we could possibly, have a better, more, and a compromise kind of a position between a neighbor and the applicant. So I'm thinking here that, I like what I'm hearing, and wondering that maybe we should kind of delay this until a later date, that would not impact anybody in a negative way. Is that a possibility? I'm just raising it.
Let me ask Mr. Camden a question. What can you do? Apparently, the issue here is noise, right? So if you're going to go back and try to reconfigure the thing, how are you going to reduce the noise? Are you going to reduce it to a level that's almost imperceptible or much lower, or?
No, that's,
That's
as you know,
what I mean.
that's not going to be possible. And
Exactly.
this is nothing unique to this area. Every
Right.
single one, every house is, let's call it 15 feet away from each other by the time that they're
No, I
constructed.
understand.
And every single house on Hickory Boulevard deals with this same issue of noise, and that's just the nature of being close to each other and
It's the
choosing
nature
to
of
live
the
near the
beast.
beach. Right.
Agreed.
And so, no, I would say that delaying this process is not an option for us,
Okay.
because these homeowners have been very patient through this process, and they really need to get their design.
Okay, you've answered my question,
For
thank you.
construction, yes,
Thank you,
sir.
appreciate it.
And we are 5-foot setback on our property, so 6.5, we're not 15, because we don't have a 100-foot lot. The 100-foot lots have a 7.5 setbacks. We have a 5, and they all have a 6.5. So,
12 inches.
12. Well, no, 12.5 feet based on what they're proposing versus 15.
So
Right.
that would place your mechanical equipment pad at 2 feet from the lot line now.
Okay.
That you have.
Right, I'm happy to, like I said, I'm not disputing the 6.5 feet, I'm just looking at this, is there a possibility for a different placement of it? And that's all, since it's not been constructed.
I do think that there's not, a disadvantage to us placing the condensing units on the main floor and moving the generator to the top floor. That would allow for them to be away from your bedroom area, and the possibility of some
Yep.
tall palms to help
Yep.
screen that a little bit
Yeah.
more too.
Yeah.
It seems like you would be willing to accommodate
Sure.
your neighbors, which
Well,
makes,
yeah, and
which
they're gonna-
makes eminent good sense.
And we-
And our clients, the Sears, they're great, and you guys are gonna be living next to each other, so we hopefully, if you get
Yeah.
along as well as you can. then
My-
that starts to
my-
stop.
my recommendation-
No, it wasn't, well, again, we were just trying to understand where the placement, if it was gonna be cantilevered or not. And I
Completely understand, yeah.
it's
Understood.
fine with
No,
that.
no, my recommendation at this point is, based on just the conversation, is
Take a vote.
you would you would request a condition that all equipment will be recessed, that the AC unit will be on the lower level, and that the applicant will add sound deadening materials to the alcove itself, and there'll be some appropriate landscaping to block the noise. And then that the home constructor will be restricted to the footprint as depicted on the site plans,
That gets,
which, since
You
that's
should
the
both
maximum,
live
that
with
shouldn't be a
that.
problem.
That's reasonable.
good. I so move.
Mr. Hutchinson, you're in favor? You move in favor of it?
Absolutely, yes.
Any second?
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Unanimous. Congratulations.
Ms.
And
Zabitsky.
thank you,
thanks
Mrs.
for coming.
Zabatsky.
And congratulations, your property value just went up quite a bit.
Thank you very much.
I know, they all are apparently.
But, being from the New Jersey shore, I know exactly what it's like with these little beach towns.
Yeah.
I mean, the lots are just crazy.
They are.
I mean, it's endemic
Yep.
to this type of property.
And all the houses going up there now are very nice, so it's
Yeah,
enhancing the
they're all
property values
tear
around.
downs.
and- Sure.
All tear downs.
All
Well,
right.
again, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I call for an adjournment.
How about
All
our
done?
next- How about our next meeting here? It
How
says
about-
Tentative.
Tentatively for December 15th.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that date? so
It doesn't
far?
look like we're going to have anything for December, so it looks like you'll be able to take extended
Early
holidays.
Christmas?
Oh,
No
okay.
Christmas. Um,
An early Christmas present.
Yeah, and we are looking for additional dates for training in January. I'm going to send out some, I know I sent you some early materials, basically like worksheets on process. Those
You
have
gave
not-
me that. Yeah, I
Those
have
have
that.
not been adopted by the city council, but you can also adopt them yourselves if you want to look over those and see if that, you've seen the way today's hearings went, if you like that process or want to have any tweaks to that. I'll also send you some reading materials ahead of the training, just so you can familiarize yourself and know what questions you might want to ask. But basically land use law and some generic planning stuff.
How is somebody deciding between whether our meetings are virtual or
They're
warm
going to
bodies?
be, unless the governor enacts a new allowance for virtual meetings, we'll be continuing to go in person from now on.
Just curious.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
I
he-
think there's a tremendous advantage, and I
Oh,
realize,
absolutely.
you know, because again, there's so much technical stuff and paperwork that, you know, I sit at a small desk, I just can't possibly do that if I'm virtual. It's-
I agree.
Yeah.
If it doesn't kill us.
As long as everyone feels that we're doing it safely, I think we're good to keep going here until City Hall's rebuilt.
Derek, I have a question. I
Sure.
mean, the reading material, there's not going to be a quiz, and if there
No,
is, I
no.
hope there's going to be open book, because, you know, I'm past those
no.
stages.
No, I'm actually probably going to, I won't, there'll be easy read cases. I'll send you a couple cases that I think really kind of synopsis.
I mean, chapter 4, huh?
Yeah, a really good synopsis on,
It's about that
on what this is, and then I'll also send you, I'm planning on sending you some just primer stuff for quasi judicial hearings, just, you know, what the basic stuff's on, what the rights of questions and cross-examination, that kind of stuff. I'll leave the planning stuff to the planners, I
It's
won't.
like a class 101,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's continuing education.
which is needed. I'm
All
glad.
right.
It's
very
good to have, I
nice.
mean, I think,
Really.
actually, if you see what we did, especially with the second hearing,
Yes.
perfect example of what a
Yeah.
variance
Went
is.
very smoothly.
It's a hardship, but they're asking for something extra.
Yeah.
And when they're asking for the maximum of what they can ask for, there should be conditions to make sure that doesn't impact the neighbors negatively, and
Yeah.
I think what you guys
Well,
did.
I thought they got along famously.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast where you find that property.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. Okay, well, gentlemen, have a good holiday.
Thank
Two
you.
of them coming up, and I guess I won't see you either one way or the other.
Tony, enjoy your
Good to
Thank
see
you
you.
very
Good to meet
much. Well,
everybody.